Hello all. I told you it wouldn't be too long. So yeah, alright. Just so we're not leaving an arc dangling, what we're going to do is smack out this Gantz arc, which, by the way, will probably be it for Gantz in 2025, and then we'll do the goldfish. Then, we are going to go all out and prepare for our feature presentation for spooky season. Let's just say that this will be one to remember. And not just because it's hands down the darkest thing we've ever covered. I am not kidding. We're going to need to tread very, very carefully here. But because, as an experiment, just to see if it helps viewership, we aren't going part by part. That's right. We're doing the entire thing as a massive one-shot. As to what it is, well, some of you know. And the rest of you, well, if you know, you know. You know? Oh, and Fuan no Tane after that. But if you do want more Gantz in 2026, you know what to do. Let's call it, 250. Anyways, we see what happened inside the center between Izumi and the Ryangosaurus, our Leviathan final boss of the hunt. In a nutshell, he went in like Johnny Massive Testicles and got his cheeks clapped within a nanosecond. Despite his stature, his skill, and his power, this thing is massive, fast, and way more powerful than Izumi, using its neck and its blade like a kusarigama. And after he saw just how outclassed he was, Izumi straight up did a runner. He also rescued the panda for some reason. I hear wedding bells already. Oh right, as people pointed out in the previous video, while I'm still trying to figure out how the Kape fits into all of this, the fifth hunt was almost certainly inspired by another video game series. This one quite obscure. It's a B-tier fighting game by the name of Primal Rage, which involves a cast of dinosaurs and other prehistoric beasts, punching, biting, and yes, there is a familiar looking T-Rex that spits fireballs. Now this game's kind of unknown now, but during the era, it was, well, a perfect example of the Streisand effect. Despite it being kind of outdated for the era, it was the subject of a lot of controversies, and this led to it receiving more publicity than it had previously. It wasn't super well known in Japan, but as it's a fighting game and Japanese arcades are, let's be honest here, maybe 70% fighting games and 30% taiko or light gun nonsense. Oh dude, did they have it as one of those amazing back-to-back cases? Do you get those in the US? But yeah, with Oku's penchant for fighting games, he'd likely have been exposed to it at least. So we're gonna go with Primal Rage being the answer, particularly the character Diablo, no relation, and Armadon, who is a Triceratops. No idea who the Ryangosaurus is based on. Vertigo maybe? Let me know in the comments if you've even heard of the game, and whether you enjoyed it or not. I remember it, and I also remember the controls being, for want of a better word, complete and utter deep-fried buttock. Meanwhile, the now enormous and very silly-looking Kape is battering the unsuited black hunters, just knocking them around with ease while saying more bumpkinish things. Then Kaze asks if he can have a crack at it, suit or no suit. Considering that he's often referred to as a Kape himself, I wonder if he feels a connection. Again, I have a feeling that the Kape, his connection to the dinosaurs, and his power set are some sort of obscure pun or cultural reference that I'm just not seeing. Then, just to add to the bedlam, the frigging fuzz arrives en masse, likely due to reports of explosions and other nonsense in Makuhari. Well then, this is gonna get messy. We get another gorgeous and darkly funny double spread as the police investigate. They obviously don't see the hunters or the bits of raptor underfoot. Is this okay to show YouTube? Would xenomorphs be okay? Because these are aliens. I don't even know where the line is anymore. But they can see the damage to the scenery as well as, I guess, feel the chunky raptor salsa underfoot. This is not good. Izumi, panda in hand, approaches them in astonished annoyance. See, His plan was essentially to go off solo and leave the suitless Kei as well as the other hunters to die to whatever their target or targets had been. Only, when he returned, he was absolutely flabbergasted to see that not only is Kei still alive somehow, so is a good portion of the Gantz team, some of whom are now in suits and a few that are unsuited. Nonetheless, they survived. Oh, and the area is just littered with dead dinosaurs. This is with a mostly unsuited, leaderless, and untrained group of hunters. How the hell did they pull this off? Not only that, but Kaze is actually going toe-to-toe with their core target, and he's also suitless. However, Izumi hears the sound of air being displaced by something, as the enormous bladed neck of the Ryungosaurus sweeps down and across the stairs at an insane speed. While he's able to evade it, albeit narrowly, the police are not so lucky. Yow! This panel. This is the one that, even censored, may get me in trouble. Think of that absolutely bonkers cable scene from the start of Ghost Ship. You know, the only reason that anyone remembers that nothing of a movie. Come at me, Ghost Ship stands. Although, come to think of it, can we get a dinosaur ship movie? Someone get on that. The creature then speaks, promising vengeance for all of its children. Note a theme here. The aliens really do seem to be mostly chill until the Gantz squad attacks them. Just doing their things, hiding out, and presumably breeding, mimicking real-life people or things, or hiding out in uninhabited parts of Japan. And when attacked, they will defend themselves as well as sometimes pursue vengeance. And this has led to horrible consequences, particularly the awful outcome of Hunt 4, where Steve came right out of Gantz and attacked Kei's school. The Ryungosaurus begins smashing its way down the stairs. This thing is a natural disaster on legs. It just annihilates the police force, who probably think this is a bombing of some sort, or maybe a localized earthquake, as the hunters can only desperately duck and cover. Bloody hell. How do you even fight a thing this size? Unlike the enormous Buddha monster they fought in Nara, it's lightning fast and knows what it's doing. Even getting in close will be difficult. I guess the short answer is not easily. Let's take a look. Utterly overwhelmed by the boss monster, Kei, likely asking himself yet again what Kato would do, comes up with a wild, potentially good, but desperate plan. He stands up and starts yelling at the creature, saying that he is the one that killed the other dinos, particularly the baby dino, and this works pretty well. I hope you know what you're doing, mate, as the monster roars and gives chase. We see his idea, if you can call it that. He intended to pull aggro, and then basically run like hell, hoping to run out the clock to save the life of, let's be honest here, it's mostly Suzuki, who's already become a bit of a father figure to Kei, or at the very least a mentor, a stabilizing presence in his life, someone to guide him down the right path. Now, this does raise an interesting question. What happens if they successfully take down the target provided by Gantz? Here, the Kape. But the timer runs out before they kill the final boss. Is the final boss just bonus points? Is that a successful hunt? Would they be reset? Sadly, this is one that's never answered. Alright, as per the last video, I'm going to be moving a few things around slightly to make it a bit easier to follow and less fragmented, as this sequence is kind of all over the place as it pertains to points of view. So we will first tackle the Kape fight. Initially, Kaze seems to be getting overwhelmed by the thing's size and strength. Clumsy, yes, but he's just getting battered around, and while he's able to deflect some blows, one eventually slips through and sends him flying, leaving him stunned on the ground. However, As the giant creature approaches to seal the deal, Kaze reveals that he was playing possum, essentially just baiting the thing in close, as he hits it full on with a powerful elbow strike, winding it, and then follows this up with his patented shoulder slam, smashing the thing's ribs and sending it flying. And when it lands, it doesn't get up, lying there on the ground with blood trickling from its mouth. Kaze finally slumps to the ground, leaning against some rubble. He's battered, but victorious. Good job, mate. However, he hears something, as do the other hunters, as the Kape rises up again, now grown to absolutely colossal proportions. I have to guess that this creature turns damage into size or something. Sort of like Strong Guy from the X Factor comics. Well, Strong Guy. That name, man. 90s comics were their own thing. Now what? However, it's one of those anticlimactic moments, as, before it can finish Kaze, it abruptly, holy friggin' crap, that's nasty. It splits in half diagonally as Izumi cuts it down from behind with his crazy Sephiroth sword. And yes, like quite a few creatures in Gantz, the panda also seems to change size between panels. I wouldn't worry about it. But seriously, that is such a cool weapon. The sword, not the panda. What am I on about? Kei, meanwhile, is doing a super runaway, but he's actually not stupid, abusing cover and the scenery to always be one step ahead of the Leviathan. Its sheer size being the only reason why he's not a greasy smear on the landscape. Remember, we've established via Kato that Kei was always daring and amazing at escaping from bigger kids, often via absolutely insane stunts like this. However, he can only keep this up for so long, not only because it will inevitably land a blow, and one that even lands close enough will atomize him, but because he's reaching his physical limits. This is why you never skip cardio, mate, he says as a 40-something that's had a pack-a-day habit since he was, you know what? And joke there. YouTube would not appreciate that factoid, so we're gonna skip it. South Africa is another place. As Kei flees, we see that it's his thoughts of Tae that are keeping him going. Remembering, well, this is why I love their relationship. It's not the sex or the romantic stuff, it's the sweet little domestic moments. Chilling together, feeding a stray cat, playing with their hamster, her cooking for him. Yeah, again. Say what you want about gender roles, this pairing feels real and adds a lot of texture and growth to our main character. Back over with the main group, we get a kind of funny and endearing scene, as the hunters basically swarm around Izumi, praising him, saying that he's amazing, but also saying that with his abilities, he'd likely be able to help their leader Kei with the boss. Yeah, this gives me a chuckle. And likely thinking more of the points and showing up his rival than anything noble, Izumi grudgingly assents, getting on the back of the monocycle with Suzuki driving, and they zoom off. Kei, meanwhile, has come to a decision. For complicated reasons, preserving the life of the bystanders, saving the other hunters, and his uncertainty about whether he'd keep his points or be reset to 0, which, remember, would kill him if it happened twice in sequence. And I'm inferring here, he realizes that he has no choice. It's not enough to simply survive here. He needs to somehow take down this angry skyscraper of a dinosaur alien himself. Somehow. But how? How indeed. Running madly in, yeah, no, that's an absolutely awesome page. I really should have gone with the bumpkin for the last thumbnail and the Ryangosaurus for this one. Hindsight's always 2020, I guess. Kei sprints through Makuhari like a mad bastard until he spots something bad. Up ahead, a large number of police and reporters are gathered in a solid pack, right in their path. Oh dears. Remember, one of the often forgotten about aspects of Gantz is that if you ever present a risk of exposing the Gantz game to the wider world in any fashion, even inadvertent, well, pop goes the weasel via the Suicide Squad bomb in your head, which actually does raise a question. So, the way that teleportation allegedly works is much like a Star Trek transporter. Your body goes poof, and a new body is built for you instantaneously. But what about the bombs? Does it? Wait, actually, it can also replicate clothing and stuff, so disregard. Taking a huge risk, Kei nonetheless attempts to get the attention of some of these folks in the hopes of persuading them to leave this location, but while the invisible and inaudible Kei is able to annoy people and confuse them via a sort of disembodied touch, he's not able to do much more. All while the bomb in his head blares a klaxon warning that he is treading on very thin ice here, and kaplody splattery death is waiting under it when it breaks. This stands, once again, in sharp contrast to the Kei we saw at the start of the story, unwilling to do anything to help a homeless person on the tracks, and also getting a little wiggly at the thought of seeing him pop his cloaks. However, it is ineffective, and he's forced to give up, frantically dashing out of the mass of people as, well, the inevitable happens. Oh, lad, this is a bloodbath as the Ryangosaurus scythes through them, just sending limbs and heads and bits of people meat flying in all directions. It is some gnarly shit. Izumi and Suzuki are meanwhile inbound on his location, and we cut over to see Tae wake up, alive and well, comforting the baby. You know, shit like this doesn't do much before you have a kid. But after you do, it hits differently. Seriously, please, stop using kids being put in danger, put in distress, or, you know, killed to up the ante in your manga. We do see one potentially bad thing, though. On the ground, the observant Tae spots Kei's suit, abandoned during his duel with Izumi, and picks it up. Oh, bugger. We see that Kei, gruesomely but quite intelligently, has taken cover under the corpses as the enormous boss monster finally loses track and stomps off searching for him. Seeing his chance, Kei grabs his rifle and quietly moves off in pursuit. This thing needs to die, as, once again, while they don't know for sure, it's entirely possible that failing to kill this thing would reset everyone to zero, which would be annoying for them, but lethal for Kei. Now, this would hardly be fair, considering that Izumi all but sabotaged this hunt. But as the last time Kei was in a situation like this, Gantz had thrown him up against an unstoppable enemy force solo, seemingly for shits and giggles. So I don't think fairness features highly in Gantz's priorities. Whatever that thing is, the weird cue ball inside of an 8-ball. As he runs, he thinks of Kato, and as his thoughts start to wander, we do at last see a little bit of Kei's backstory. Now, I am not going to go into this too deeply here, as it's really only of minor importance to the story. No, I am not kidding. If you, at any point, find yourself going, oh holy crap, Kei's past and family situation is going to become plot relevant, please don't get your hopes up. While it does go sort of in that direction at times, it's not going anywhere interesting, and it'll generally just trail off or end on an anticlimax. In short, we learn that Kei was a lackadaisical student at school, not especially sporty or outgoing, mediocre academically, never really trying especially hard, and also being viewed as a sort of gloomy loser type. His younger brother, Akira, however, is everything he's not. Social, good at academics, amazing at sport. However, so there are two interesting things going on here. This vignette sees Kei asking his parents if he can move out and get his own place. They don't especially seem to care. Now, we've talked about this before, but in short, it is not terribly unusual for high school students, or honestly, in the country, middle school students, at least the older ones, to have their own apartment and live either by themselves, if they're rich or their parents are paying, or they get a part-time job, or with other students. This is generally done to them wanting to attend a specific school, one that's not within a realistic commute for their parents. Either because it's one of a few schools that gives them the track they want, whether that's to a specific university and thus career, or because it was the only decent high school that they could get into with their less than amazing grades, or some sort of blemish in their record, or at times because their family isn't of especially good stock, although fortunately this is becoming less of a problem. I could give you horror stories from my friends over there who have married Japanese partners or Japanese folks marrying Western partners, and while they get a bit of shit, their kids face absolutely wild stigma and discrimination. It is mean sometimes. The second is honestly more interesting. We will talk about this if we ever do anything on My Hero Academia. Boy, I'd love to talk about that manga, but there are so many videos on it. This is a huge part of what that story is about, particularly the character of Endeavor, but especially Bakugo, as there is an odd phenomenon that you will see in Japanese schools and society. Sometimes, for whatever reason, a kid is just good at things. Gifted might be the word used now. Maybe it's academics or a specific sport. But for this to really kick in, a lot of factors have to be in play and a lot of boxes have to be ticked off. The kid must be social, they must be from a good family, they must be good at sports, and they must test well academically. Now, you would expect that they're treated well and maybe being offered extra classes or mentorship, but no. This leads them instead to being treated by everyone, from their parents to their teachers, like some sort of chosen one. Someone who has an absolute moral responsibility to become like a neurosurgeon or to cure cancer or something. This means, rather than having an easier life, they are going to be thrown into every cram school, every coaching session, every out-of-school program, and every contest available. They will be expected to be absolutely perfect, better than everyone else, to the point where they will be discouraged from ever relaxing or having fun. It tends to result in, quite predictably, these kids growing up all sorts of warped, especially once they're in later middle school or high school. They will either take it out on everyone around them, often by becoming a massive bully, unfortunately one tolerated by teachers, or rebelling, which has a habit of seeing them segueing into complete Yankees, and then later getting involved with drugs, gangs, and the like. Anyways, we see that Akira is unfortunately walking this path. Kei's younger brother is a gigantic Yankee. I mean, just look at that hair. And he's an Izumi-ish character. Crazy good at everything, doted on by his parents, who also do not seem to care one iota about Kei. Sadly, another thing that happens. But he is growing up to be kind of a bad kid. Keep all of this in mind as we learn more about Akira. While his arc isn't that interesting, particularly how it concludes, it will be very much the arc I just described. But yeah, we see that this is one of the big reasons why Kei was such a salty little anchovy at the start of the story. Due to the complete lack of interest his parents had in him, he'd basically just given up being, well, anything really, and had also given up on family and friends. Being dropped into Gantz with Kato, and then beginning to date Tae, were the core elements that really got him back on the right track. One was a massive mentor figure, a sort of big brother to him, and Tae is just a very good, very wholesome, and very real person. Thinking back to all of this, Kei begins to tear up. He readies his gun and prepares for battle. Izumi, meanwhile, dismounts the motorcycle and prepares to go after the boss again. It's time for a rematch. However, note the difference between him and Kei. Kei is fighting for someone else. He is going to get back to Tae no matter what. Izumi, on the other hand, is fighting for himself. Although, I guess there's a kind of one-upsmanship going on here, in that he wants to upstage Kei and show him that he's better. Well, if it works, I guess. Let's do this.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello all, this is Mrs. Owl, aka the other owl, aka the random snarky text interjections in Mr. Owl's videos. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm offering a variety of my services at a very affordable price.
Phrasing?
Yeah, okay. But you know what I mean. And he better not have inserted that Archer clip over that.
Womp womp.
So for starters, my art commissions are still open. I can do everything from pixel art to animations to actual art. And if you want some examples of what I can do, I designed Mr. Owl's avatar, his intro, and all of his good thumbnails. Shh, don't tell him I said that. But if you want some fan art, an OC, an avatar, video thumbnails, an animation, or maybe a portrait or something for that important someone, whatever you want made, I'm sure we can figure something out. Now, to those of you aspiring authors, and there seem to be a good few of you on the Discord right now, I also have extensive experience proofreading and editing at a professional level, and I even design book covers. So whether it's a short story, a manga, a comic, or even academic essays or dissertations, I'm here to fix it up, polish it, and make sure it all works. And for those of you who've finished a book or graphic novel and are looking to get it read, we're offering a very special, all-inclusive editing and book cover package, and just to sweeten the deal, this will include a proper ad spot in one of Mr. Owl's videos. If you're interested, I'd snap that one up as soon as possible. So that's my side of things. If you're interested or want a quote or further information, hit me up at my business email or coffee, all links in the description. Much appreciated, and now we return to our regularly scheduled owl.
We get a double spread, showing us the layout of the battlefield. Police and civilians milling around, trying to figure out what the hell is going on, with the Ryungosaurus just towering over everything else. Yeah, like a few other elements of the manga, it kind of does seem to change size sometimes, and here, it is absolutely titanic. What a cool visual. Again, you look me in the eye and tell me this doesn't give you a sort of EDF vibe, only with more of a hard R thing going on. I guess all three of you who've played an EDF game. Kei, approaching from the flank, prepares to go in, dedicating himself to winning this and returning safely to Tae. But how? This thing is huge and powerful enough to send Izumi howling. He thinks back to when he and Suzuki took down the smaller one, remembering that a shot to its abdomen was what did the trick. The, I'm going to say, microwave effect of the X-pistol or X-rifle was enough to set off explosions inside of it, rupturing its organs. He realizes that, yikes, he needs to get under it, and that's gonna take some doing. Meanwhile, we get a very worrying sequence showing that Tae is, at last, at the very least, starting to get suspicious. The suit, her boyfriend's weird actions, something is up here. And because while she's smart and impossibly good-hearted, Tae, like Bluebeard's wives, cannot leave well enough alone. And this spells trouble. Remember, a hunter that puts Gantz in danger of discovery is typically just killed, as we've seen in previous arcs. Tread very carefully here, young lady, lest your boyfriend go pop. Kei closes in and, seeing an opening, slips in towards the Leviathan, once again looking forward to seeing Tae again. Memories of their time together, pushing him forward and giving him courage. He prepares to go in and under when an eye opens. and spots him. Ruh-roh! The thing rears up and prepares to slash downwards. Remember, Kei has taken the blame for the killing of all the other dinosaurs, mostly correctly now that I think about it, as once again Kei, through gumption and audacity, has done well for himself here. Astonishingly well. But now he's caught out in the open, with a towering wall of bladed dinosaur death about to smash down on him. But the blow never comes. Instead, the head continues backwards, and he hears the sound of metal striking metal rapidly. What the hell? We soon see the answer to this bizarre riddle. Izumi is going toe-to-toe with the monster again, his katana extended, and it is just a cloud of parries and sparks and deflections, with him using the hydraulic abilities of the suit to give him the power and speed he needs. But he can't keep this up for long, and despite his bravado and stated desire to prove himself better than Kei, he is outclassed here. Only no, at last he sees an opening and, with an immense guillotine swing, lops the head off the monster. Only, as he wasn't there when they fought the smaller one, that is not its weak spot at all, although he has removed its primary weapon. Bloody awesome image though. Sure enough, its counterattack finally sneaks through, and while he's able to deflect some of the blow, it's enough to break his suit and, ow, shatter one of his arms, turning it into something that looks like a long glove filled with jello, as the incredible force sends him flying through the air and out of the fight for now. Suzuki prepares himself for death, but we see that Kei, using Izumi's attack as cover, has finally made it under the creature and aims up with his rifle. It is time for the endgame. Now, under the bulk of the enormous creature looming over Makuhari, Kei aims, but before he can fire, in a genuinely creepy image, a dozen almost human-looking eyes blink open on the creature's belly, revealing that, as we suspected, these things are not dinosaurs, but, were they Shoggoth monsters taking the form of dinosaurs? Or were the dinosaurs actually aliens? But if it's the former, did they pose as exhibits to travel the country? Maybe sneaking the occasional tourist or night watchman? Or are they shapeshifters that... You know what? Don't worry about it. This is my brain at 3 a.m. Momentarily distracted, the creature is able to nearly step on Kei. But Suzuki comes to his rescue. Yeah, see why I love this dude? He remembers the strategy that they used to kill the smaller one a while back. And engaging his suit, digging his feet into the tarmac, holy crap, this rules, heaves the monster back, while Kei, doing that, that manga thing, where he yells like a screaming goat while remembering shit. Yeah, that. Fires and fires and fires into its underside, and while it is able to finally shake Suzuki loose, the shots detonate, the Titan sways, tips over, and collapses dead. Kick ass! But brace yourselves. We're not done quite yet, as it's time for us to introduce one of Gantz's most hated and, I'll be honest here, yeah, I really don't love this element either. You'll see what I mean. Kei and Suzuki share a much-earned high five. Yeah, the relationship between these two is honestly just so damn wholesome. And then Reika all but confesses that she's essentially floating in her suit. I mean, her undying love for the young man. Okay, tread very carefully here. Yeah, she's stunning, is popping a massive lady boner for you, and dating her would defos show all those thundercunts at school what's what. But you've got Taya, mate. And Taya's even better. We get a wonderful double spread showing us, okay, Oku, whatever you want to say about the man having a heart 2 sizes too horny, he's a real dab hand at visual storytelling. Like, just look at how much you can tell about these characters and the situation from this image alone. From left to right, loosely, Inaba sits off alone, looking morose. Reika has been claimed by their leader, and he knows he's shit out of luck. But assuming he survives much longer, what will this mean for the team? Izumi is also off, Panda in tow. He's probably not happy either. The family, now reunited, look a lot happier. Although how in the name of a T-Rex's cloaca is the dad up and moving? Sakurai wants to congratulate Kei but cannot get close, due to his short stature and timid nature. Old habits die hard. Sakata is almost out of sight, probably trying to look cool. Kaze is also off to one side, just watching things unfold. The sort of man that keeps to himself and doesn't really go in for grand gestures. Reika is behind Kei, looking at him with admiration, and the black tourists are talking animatedly. See, damn it, this is well constructed. Meanwhile, we cut over to see something inexplicable. 4 sharply dressed men are making their way down the convention center steps and out into the streets, towards the location of the invisible Gantz team. Yeah, here we go with this shit. Their leader, a white-haired, almost impossibly handsome 20-something. Seriously, this dude makes Izumi look like Steve Buscemi, and he and the rest are bantering about martial arts and artists vis-a-vis whether or not sumo wrestlers are the ultimate martial artists. Yeah, one day we'll do Kengan Ashura, and we can discuss it all there. Man, I love that manga. The hunters begin teleporting out, but as Kei begins to, he notices the foursome walking nonchalantly towards them. Then one extends a hand and what in the what? Summons a gun out of his own flesh before they open fire. In an instant, the tourists, the family, and most of the other survivors besides Suzuki go down in a hail of bullets, dead. He, to his credit, returns fire, but these guys move like lightning, dodging and flipping out of the way of his shots. Now, if this all sounds familiar, remember that Oku is a pop culture fiend, particularly Western sci-fi, horror, and action movies, and if the idea of incredibly agile, seemingly unbeatable, sharply dressed, gun-wielding men hunting down a ragtag group of characters dressed in black bodysuits, yeah, it's an obvious nod to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I'm kidding. It's the fucking agents from the Matrix, because of course it is. But there is one element about these guys that's even more weird. Meet the vampires. No, I'm not kidding. These guys are vampires. Sort of, kind of. The truth of them is honestly even more confusing than simple vampires would be, but short version, they're vampires. They're fast, strong, drink blood, and die to sunlight. And they are basically hunter-hunters, the anti-Gantz. And yeah, it's an interesting idea, although not well executed as you will see later, but for now, all you need to know about these guys is that they are formidable. The vampires waste no time. One slips in behind Suzuki and, targeting the weak spots on his suit, those knobbly things, instantly breaks it and prepares to shoot Suzuki dead. Oh no, man. Clearly, they've dealt with hunters before and know how to go through them like turpentine through a sick sheep. It's a Terry Pratchett nod, love. I wouldn't worry about it. However, out of nowhere, Izumi launches a counterattack, but even with his speed and katana, even caught flat-footed, these guys are just impossibly good, leaping up and over the slash. The leader, he recognizes Izumi, and I have to wonder if maybe the vampires were responsible for killing his squad. I don't know, but something like that is implied, I think. Izumi, however, who escaped with 100 points, does not remember them at all, due to Gantz erasing his memory, which, as we'll learn later, may be a plot hole, but not an important one. They lock blades, and spoiler, Izumi is totally out of his depth here. The white-haired man easily blocks him, but before this can go any further, Izumi is teleported out. Oh right, the hunt is over, and that's kind of bad. He leaves Suzuki alone, his suit broken. With nobody else around, and faced with imminent death, a terrified Suzuki suddenly thinks of Kei. much in the way that Kei would think of what Kato would do in a situation like this. He pauses, then opens fire right at the white-haired man with his X-pistol, actually managing to blow the guy's gun up, to his astonishment, but he doesn't stop. He walks towards them yelling and firing repeatedly, actually pushing them back, before the white-haired man cuts him down from behind. Oh no. But this next bit is, this is the bit that I was referring to, and this bit hits me right in the feels. Suzuki opens his eyes and realizes that he's on a train, sitting next to a middle-aged lady and... Okay, so now, this might not seem to have any real meaning for those of you not from Japan, but people who live or have lived there, this is going to be immediately recognizable and is going to make people, like myself, blubber like a baby. See, there are trains and there are trains. Your standard lines run you maybe $1 for a few stops, and even going pretty far, you're unlikely to go above $10 or so total. Hell, I remember jumping on the train from where I was after work on a Friday evening, go up to my bird's place around 4 hours away, and it cost me, maybe $15. Now granted, it may have gone up since then. These standard trains are clean, comfortable, and often quite crowded, with long bench-like seats parallel to the sides of the train, and these sorts of handles on strings for when it gets really crowded, and people have to stand. This train, though, has a more comfortable seating arrangement, huge windows, and is, as a whole, a little nicer. This designates it as, I honestly don't know if there's a proper word for these. We always called them resort trains. They're typically quite pricey unless you're going far and don't care about your time, as they aren't really suited to that. I'll explain why in a second. In my day, if you wanted to ride one of these, there was a $10 seating charge plus your standard fare. It's not murder, but if you've only got one stop, that $10 charge really stings. And you'd honestly may as well just get a taxi. Or you sneak on with a regular ticket, hope they don't spot you, and if they do, you just play dumb foreigner. That worked sometimes. Now, why aren't they suited for longer distance travel? Well, see, they aren't really designed for that. They are not commuter trains. And I don't mean in design, but in terms of function and purpose. They are mostly for tourists, but more so, likely old Japanese folks who sort of want to travel Japan after retirement, typically enjoying the view, then making longer stops, often even allowing people to get off, enjoy some local scenery or delicacy or activity, then depart again. They have huge windows for watching the scenery and, yeah, they rule. I remember whiling away the odd Sunday afternoon, taking a resort train up the east coast of Japan. It was just utterly gorgeous, especially in the autumn. Now, it's really common for retired couples to get some sort of package deal or huge discount on these, and they'll often just spend their time traveling around Japan, seeing the sights and having fun, especially city slickers on a pilgrimage to visit relatives in the country and just enjoy it in their old age. So yeah, if you haven't clicked as to what this is, I will explain it. As, when the lady speaks, Suzuki outright bursts into tears. The woman is his wife. She's been waiting for him. This is his heaven, finally getting to enjoy his retirement with her. Holy shit, Oku. That's... dude. Happy tears, man. And good on you, Suzuki, but still, dude. We see them embrace, and sometime later, they sit companionably on a bench next to each other, waiting for their train to depart again. She tells him that she'll always be here, watching over him, and then, when he blinks, she's on the train, moving away. Suzuki gasps and wakes up in the Gantz room. He's been saved at the last second by the bizarre and often inconsistent rules of Gantz. Remember, no matter what injury you've sustained, no matter how apparently dead you are, if there is a single breath or beat of your heart left in you, you will be fully healed if you are teleported out after death. Remember, it's not your original body, but some sort of clone produced at the instant your other body is atomized. Although I'm not sure how Izumi's door works in this scenario. At least this means we will get lots more Suzuki. Anyways, this concludes the 5th hunt, and what a ride that was. We get a short epilogue. Kei finds himself really happy that Suzuki made it, probably starting to view the guy as a sort of replacement father figure due to his own dad being absolutely crap. However, they've lost a lot of people, including the family. Most of their dead were killed by the mysterious foursome of men that attacked them. We get a really entertaining sequence as Gantz lists the scores and also assigns nicknames to the hunters, most of which are at least marginally cruel. Sakata is first with 11 points and designated dimwit due to him, I suppose, looking a bit like a pretentious doofus. Kei explains to everyone that something happens at 100 points, and from what he knows, this means that they get to go home. Reika hasn't gotten any points and is designated Kurono's #1 fan, and yeah, she's all adorable and flustered. Most of the others got between 0 and 10, with Inaba and the panda being goose eggs, and Suzuki getting 5. Izumi, however, stuns the others with a whopping 16 points, as he of course looks down on them with a sneer, but is then absolutely flabbergasted when it's revealed that Kei got an absolutely bananas 58 points. Holy crap, and that's without a suit. Kei, now accepting his role as team leader, explains to everyone that they can now safely leave via the door. Not to say anything whatsoever or to do anything that would risk making this weirdness public, but warns them that they will soon be teleported back here to participate in another hunt. Presumably, and yes, I'm inferring here, a more challenging one each time. However, Kei, as kind of a cool surprise, says one last thing. Due to the threat of the, we're just calling them vampires, but I suspect I'll refer to them as agents at least once, the difficulty of the hunts, and most likely him seeing the massive potential of the team, well, except for Inaba, and thinking of Kato, he says that they should meet up again, exchange information, and presumably do some training before the next hunt. Yeah, he is thinking of Kato and trying to be someone similar, a leader capable of fusing the Gantz squad into a cohesive unit and get as many people home alive as possible. And I'm gonna spoil one thing now. It's effective, but they have no idea what's coming. As the arc draws to a close, we see Kei find Tae and the baby. I'm not entirely sure of the timeline here. We do learn later that the hunts take place in real time. But you know what? I'm not asking questions. It opens some plot holes, but this is a very sweet and emotional scene, and yeah, that's that. As far as we know, the baby is eventually returned to her parents, and Kei and Tae go home together. What lies ahead of them? Well, Hunt 6. And Hunt 6 is where the manga takes an absolutely massive turn and marks the point where the hunts will proceed a bit differently for a while. And, also go completely batty. In fact, there is only just one standard hunt left to us, and even that has a lot of wrinkles. I am of course referring to the amazing and notorious Osaka hunt, which is basically a manga unto itself, and we will get there way later. And probably, I don't know. I'm considering ending Arc 2 before Osaka, and as it'll be really long, treating that as an intermission of sorts before we get into the final arc. Again though, that's a ways away. Anyways, before we finish for the day, I just want to give a massive owl thanks, as always, to our amazing patrons. And I suppose channel members. Sorry, I always forget that's a thing. without whom this video probably wouldn't exist. I am not even slightly kidding, so yeah, if you're looking for someone to thank for making this, these folks are your first stop. And yeah, as always, with a bunch of new people coming in, I'm almost certainly going to cock this up. Please let me know in the comments if I miss you, or more likely persistently mispronounce your name. Nakzul, Ryan Charles, Frosty Tian, Rosie, R.J. Grendelsire, Harrison Clements, Cookie Dough, Emily, Amber, Frank Hartnett, Cam Trigger, Melissa Marston, BK, Taylor Smith, Ang, Alice Teacup, Melly Pepper, Sam Glasper, Majestic, Brendan, Kamarian Lindsay, Taylor Smith, Tak2M, Sefit, Anna MC, Muhaku, Huna Hexchen, Ad Clear Andrew, Nate Corbin, Fluffy Burb, Kamolian, Endymion, Jake, The Empress, Simone, Squid, The Hedgehog Gamer, Rafferty, Hermit, Yorgborg, William, Oishi Bum, Aaron Arnolds, Sallyface, Kane, Konzen Doji 180, Fergus McFirkin, Mootle, Maverick Moona, Hamwise the Stout, Gunslinger Zero, Jalen R, Mike, Chilled Ice, Ranger Danger, Rose Montgomery, Inukie Koji, John Knepp, Kel Core, Opinion Custard, Robert Dote, Wargle, Hunting for R2D2, Jalen R, Lee, Eleanor, Crazy, Question Man 6, Eric Scott DeB, Ring Mescal / Mina, Callie Caris, JL, Lance Goebel, Joseph Barrett, JMD Raid, and Lightspeed. I also want to give an even specialer owl thanks to our resident Owlbard patrons, Jathis and Fogweaver. That is so generous. Wow, huge thanks. And as always, I'm also sure that there's at least one person I have forgotten, so to you, my apologies. Please let me know, and thanks anyway. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, comment, and all that good jazz. It really does help the video out in terms of the bloody algorithm. And otherwise, if you want to support this channel, please consider patroning up. You'll get access to some pretty cool perks like exclusive emotes on the Discord, an exclusive channel, early access to videos, an exclusive video, and I'll make some more eventually, my book, and a couple of other things, including a specific thing. Sorry, I can't be more specific at this point in time. We're still planning it. It's going to be cool. White Whistle and Owlbard patrons can also commission videos and deep dives, and patrons as a whole do have a lot of input on what manga I cover on this channel and how. If you fancy supporting us in other ways, you could leave us one of those super thanks, and Mrs. Owl's commissions are still open, so if you're looking for some art as a birthday present or something, an OC, or for your book to be edited, all of her links are in the description. Cheers, my friends, and thanks again. Until next time, this is the Owl, signing off.